where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had to come up and give a motivational speech. In the afternoon each day. He was a running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real as it progressed. We had a name Rocky. Hit it, Rock! And by played as man, I'm hearing that song. Yeah, you heard me. I'm finna put you in the trash bag. No shit. You want mother in the house? Y'all. Yeah. And I'm hearing at sea it was the third we were about or right for the sea pissing and different and get each day to the time. Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock." And we are frozen. What it is, what it ain't, what it should be. Let's hope this thing catches back up with us, baby. Let's see. Let's wait it out here for a minute, huh? There we go. We're back up to speed, baby. Let's go. Let's go now. Go now, baby. Let's get it going. All right, we back. Let's go now, boy. Maybe keep that rolling in the background for a second. I don't know why I'm asking, because I run this program, you know what I'm saying? I run this town, yeah? I run Rio de Janeiro, yeah? So I've been doing this cool thing here. Yeah, let's get this covered. Come on now. Come on. God playing with me today, baby. Nah, he's cool. He's giving me a good bull. You know what I mean? Yeah, so we're going to continue. What's been going on with me, man? What's been going on? I've been doing a better job of calling my boys the last couple of days. I've been taking walks out in the desert every morning with my bird dog. And he ran up on a rattlesnake the other day. And I didn't see the snake, but I heard it. It must have been a big snake because I was about 30 yards from wherever the sound was coming from. And I've been living out in the desert for about 4 years, a little longer than 4 years and some change. And I was always paranoid about rattlesnakes when I came out here because I like to get out. I like to hike. We got a little spot that we go to every morning about 10 minutes from the house. And when I first got here, when I first started walking around, I was always real paranoid. I thought everything was a rattle, but it wasn't. And it was the first time in the wild. I've seen 2 rattlesnakes, but neither of them rattled at me. And then I think it was a couple days ago, I heard this rattle. It was the most distinct thing I've ever heard in my life. It was loud. It was distinct. And I think there was even a little bit of a smell coming from that mug. A little cucumber, baby, you know, if you know what I mean. I remember a story I used to hear from old Eastern Kentucky. I can't even tell you who it is. Probably a fourth or fifth cousin of mine that was talking about how they'd walk out on their porch out there in eastern Kentucky and they'd smell cucumbers. And they'd be like, what's that smell down there? Smell like cucumbers out here. And it was a family, hundreds and hundreds of copperhead snakes living under their porch. And so apparently when snakes feel threatened, they give off a kind of pheromone. And it smells like cucumbers. And I thought I smelled something when I started hearing that rattle. I thought I smelled something, but it might have just been whatever placebo is for that context. You know what I mean? I thought of that story from Eastern Kentucky, and my nose just started getting more lively than it needed to. You know what I mean? Welcome back to the show. Today we've got some juice. It's always fun to try and get creative, especially because I think we're in week 4 or week 5 of going live every day, Monday through Friday. It's always a fun challenge to figure out what you're going to talk about on this works. What kind of alliteration am I going to use here today for Wednesday? This work boot Wednesday, okay? It's always fun, especially during football season. I don't know what the hell we're going to talk about day to day when football season's over, but we'll figure it out. But on this work boot Wednesday, on every work boot Wednesday, I hope I'm not jacking that from somebody. Every work boot Wednesday during the season, it's always a fun challenge to figure out what to talk about, because we've already talked about Monday Night Football. We've already talked about the Sunday games. We don't have Thursday Night Football quite yet, right? That preview is reserved for Thursday's show. And then, Friday you could talk about the Thursday night game. Monday you talk about the games from the week before. Tuesday you talk about Monday Night Football. But on Work Boot Wednesday, you got to get a bit creative. You got to get a bit in the trenches. This is where only true ball knowers come out on the daily shows, on the daily grind. How can you figure out how to keep the masses captivated? And so we heard more about Joe Flacco over the last 24 hours. This is why I love having an afternoon show, because all the morning shows, Pat McAfee caught it, okay, and a couple other morning shows I follow, they go too early to catch news like this. So I'm proud that we've got a channel that's able to bring you the most up-to-date football news as it happens. And so we got more juice on the Joe Flacco trade. Joe was given a ride, okay? The Bengals did not fly him in true Bengals fashion. They did not fly him from Cleveland to Cincinnati. It's about a 3.5-hour drive, 249.6 miles from Cleveland, Ohio to Cincinnati, Ohio. I always say, when somebody tells me they're from Ohio, we got some Ohio fellas at the gym. They're all Cleveland guys. And I always tell them, Cleveland is a different world from Cincinnati. It's an entire state away from Cincinnati. If somebody's from Cincinnati, you're basically from where I'm from, and we got something to chat about. If you're from Cleveland, you're from Columbus, not as much for us to chat about other than the thriving Ohio State Buckeyes football program right now. Ryan Day's got to figure it out over there. And I believe Oregon's number 2 in the nation, and we got the Miami Hurricanes at number 3. I heard an interesting conversation about college football today. There's a great podcast if you want juice on college football. Obviously, you come here, right? But there's a podcast with Mark Ingram and Urban Meyer called the Triple Option Podcast. I'm giving them some free promo right now, and their juice is completely college football, and they were talking about how a lot of these guys in college football are not going to make the same kind of money they're making until their second contract in the NFL. And if you know anything about second contracts in the NFL, you know that it's not easy to get one of those. So guys like Carson Beck, unless Carson Beck, the now quarterback of the Miami Hurricanes, I'll always think of him as a Georgia guy, but he's establishing his brand as a Miami Hurricane. He goes over to Miami to be with what's-her-face Cavender, and then she breaks up with him and starts slandering him on the internet to Trump's granddaughter. Right? So a guy like that, he might not be a first rounder. He could be a first rounder, but let's say he's not a first rounder. It's probably going to take him 3 or 4 years in the NFL to start making the kind of money again that he's making currently. And I was just listening to this conversation thinking, what a mind F-U-C-K. You know what I mean? So over the last, I think since 2018, there were like 106 college kids that were underclassmen that declared for the NFL draft. And you fast forward to last year, 2024, 2025, we're in 25, so we had a draft this year. In this year's draft, you had 55 underclassmen declaring for the draft. So it's very clear that NIL is incentivizing kids to stick around and stay at school. And you think about it, why would you leave? The only reason underclassmen and passes left is so that they could go and get some real money to take care of their families. And now they've got that. And they can be a college kid. They can go down to, let's say you're in Oxford, Mississippi. Not only are you able to don that big chain on your chest that spins, right, and wear all these lavish game day fits and go out there and be beloved by Oxford, Mississippi and beyond, but you're making millions for the most part. I got to adjust it down south if you guys didn't notice right here. I'm sticking to my leg. I'm talking too much. But you got the money piece handled. You're driving whatever whip you want to drive. You're living in a nice house probably. I don't know what the rules are around that, but I doubt they're not very strict. And then you can get a big win on a Saturday afternoon and go down to the local frat boy's house and pick you up any kind of women you want. And say, hey, baby, what do you say we get out of here and I grab you that 25 boneless wings special down there at the ATL Wings? I can get you 2 of them if you want. I guess we're thinking about big girls right now. But you're making more money than probably most guys would make, even if you get drafted. Unless you're a top 10 pick. If you're a bonus baby, then that's a little different. So unless you're a top 10 pick, you're probably going to make more, maybe certainly make more as a college player than you will until you get that second contract in the NFL. And I should have gone and pulled up the statistics on how many guys get a second contract in the NFL, because I know it's not common. It's not common for Cincinnati Bengals offensive linemen. It hadn't happened since 2011 there. The Bengals haven't drafted an O-lineman since 2011 that's gotten a second contract in the NFL. Think about that. And so now we put all of our hope in Joe Flacco. There's something about Flacco that I just trust more. I can't put my finger on it. There's something about Flacco. You go from I'm stealing people's stuff right now. You go from Joe Cool to Joe Cooler. And you got all the crab meat running through his veins, all the John slang being thrown around from all that time in Baltimore. Another thing I'm wondering, and I hope maybe I can clip this and Ravens fans can weigh in on TikTok or wherever else. Why do the Ravens highlight the MO in Baltimore in the end zone. I don't understand that. And I'd like to know why. And I'm sure some Ravens fans could weigh in on that. So Joe Flacco was given a ride. So the Bengals sent him 2 cars yesterday. 1 car for him and his wife. I don't know if he's got kids or not. And 1 car for all of his possessions. The second sentence that Zach Taylor uttered to Joe Flacco when he promptly called him on the phone after Flacco was picked up was that Joe was going to be the starter on Sunday. The second sentence he told Joe Flacco was telling him that he was going to be the starter. So I actually just learned this today. This looks to be Joe Flacco's last year in the NFL. And he's just agreeing to come and help out an organization that is desperate. The Bengals are in desperation mode, and this move shows us that. We are desperate to get Jamar more involved in the game. We are desperate to get T. Higgins some action. We are desperate to invigorate this locker room. And again, I could take this opportunity to dump on the organization for even having us in this spot, but I'm not going to do that because I've already done that enough. We shouldn't be in this spot, but we are. I think it's funny that you've got the number 1 powerhouse college football program in Ohio State, and then the 2 NFL organizations in the state are perpetual disasters. So basically what I understand is that Joe Flacco and Zach Taylor had them a little speed dating conversation on that 3.5-hour drive from Cleveland to Cincinnati. They talked the whole time, and Joe Flacco had the playbook open as they were talking for the entirety of the trip. And now we're seeing clips of Joe Flacco in practice at Cincinnati today. He only spun 2 deep balls, and they were in the later period of practice. And we're seeing a lot of support, obviously, for Flacco from Burrow. Jake Browning's pissed off. Obviously, the media wanted to go and talk to him about all of this. And he said that he believes that if he wasn't pissed off, that he didn't deserve a place in the locker room. I think that's a professional response. I think he's frustrated with how he plays because with Jake Browning, I don't think it's not an attitude issue. I know that for a fact. The guy wants to play well. He is a gritty guy, I believe. He just doesn't make reads. He's staring down the receiver he's going to throw to the entire pre-play and during the play. And I was on Twitter giving my take on some of these things, on how I believe Flacco is an improvement from Browning, and I got pushback. Couldn't be more obvious, and people are trying to throw stats at me. They're trying to throw lowlights at me, one-play lowlights. They're like, really? You think Flacco's an improvement from Browning? Really? Posted some interception clip from Flacco against the Lions. And it's like, dude, the main difference that we're going to see, and this is no slight at Jake Browning. I did stick my neck out for Jake Browning. I am pretty pissed off that he made me look like an ass as a sports analyst. I'll probably dwell on that forever. It's the worst take I've ever made, saying Jake Browning was going to lead this team to the promised land. So I am a bit bitter about that. I want to be clear about the emotional veil that is over all of this for me. I'm really pissed that Jake Browning made me look like that. Jake Browning doesn't know me, though, so it's not personal. And he tried to play hard. He doesn't have the tools in terms of his reads. And this is the main difference. This is the main reason why I'm optimistic about Flacco as opposed to Browning. Set the stats aside, okay? Set the highlights and lowlights aside, people on Twitter. somebody in the thread on this, by the way, responded and was like, this guy makes bad takes, acts like he watches film, and then tries to have a show on YouTube. I was like, thanks for the fucking click, bud. You're helping me. You know what I mean? I got a little chip on my shoulder about that whole Twitter thread today. If you want to see it, you can look me up on Twitter, go into my replies. But let me get to my point. The main difference between Flacco and Browning, the main reason that I am semi-optimistic about this quarterback change for Cincinnati is that Joe Flacco has the ability to make reads. He has the ability to look off DBs, and he has the ability to deliver the ball. Not saying Jake does not have the opportunity to deliver the ball. Really, the main sauce is in the reads. You cannot look down the receiver you're going to throw to the entire pre-play and the entire play in professional football. And that's, dude, like, that's okay. It's okay that Jake isn't there yet. It's not personal. But the Bengals organization in making this move are desperate because they know that if they don't win now, they're not going to win ever. And so in signing a guy like Flacco, there's no other guy playing quarterback active in the National Football League right now that would be able to pick up a playbook and an offensive scheme faster than Flacco will be able to. And we now know that to be confirmed. In fact, that he's starting. Got a number calling me. That he's starting on Sunday against Green Bay. So we'll continue to monitor the situation. Joe Flacco would be the first quarterback in the National Football League since 1962 to beat the same team twice with two different teams. The guy that did it last, I believe he was a Buffalo Bill, and his name was Jack. Jack something. Starts with a K, I think. God, I'm ass at remembering names, baby. Jack something. Starts with a K. Not Kelly. I don't know. Nonetheless, first quarterback, potentially, since 1962 to beat the same team twice with two different teams. And this will be the second time that Joe Flacco starts at quarterback against the Green Bay Packers in 4 weeks. I've said this about the Packers defense. We kind of buffed the helmet of the Packers defense, if you will, the first couple weeks of the season. I can't remember their defensive coordinator's name right now. He's a LaFleur disciple. And the Packers threw out some crazy stunts and fronts the first 2 weeks of the season and baffled Detroit and Washington. But now, just like a pitcher with a 105-mile-an-hour fastball runs it by batters the first couple games, it's pro baseball, or in this case, pro football. Guys are eventually going to catch up to your fastball. They're eventually going to get some film on your defense and your tendencies. And so I think that's why we've seen a bit of a fall off with this Green Bay Packers defense as of late. Coaches are they've got film on them now, and it's pro football, so they're able to make adjustments. So, again, somebody asked me about what I thought about this Bengals-Packers game this weekend, what I thought about starting Jamar Chase in fantasy. All these people are asking me these questions. And what I told them is, and what I'm telling you guys is, with the 31 other teams in the National Football League, I am an analyst of this game. And my opinion should be respected. But when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals, I am a fan. And fans tend to be delusional. So, what I try to do in this context on this show is share the facts and then maybe throw a little bit of my delusional spin on it. That's all we're trying to do. So I am optimistic. I believe to this moment that the Bengals are 14-point underdogs on the road in Green Bay, Wisconsin this Sunday. I'm very, once again, and I think this is part of the reason, it's very obvious. Call me captain, not Bengals captain. Call me Captain Obvious. Okay? Part of why Cincinnati made this move, other than the fact that it's desperation mode, and they know that if they can't win now, they won't win ever, is that now they've got the fans back reinvested. Now they've got something for all of us to talk about. Once again, if the Bengals continued on the path they continued on, there would be no discussion. There would be nothing changed. It's just the same ass football team. And it might still be an ass football team. But we don't know that until they snap the ball, kick it off on Sunday. And that's why I love this game, man. If everything was already preconceived, we wouldn't have to play the games. But you have to go out there and play the game and execute and game plan leading up and then go out and deliver. So we will see. I'm, once again, for the first time in 3 or 4 weeks, excited for a Bengals game. And we'll have to see how it pans out. We got to be realistic with our expectations. I think some of my analysis on this situation was a bit clouded yesterday because it had just happened. And my brain tends to get fried when I scroll too much social media. And, of course, with a move like this, I'm going to be on Twitter all day, scouring spaces, talking a little smack, giving my unsolicited take just like I do on this show every day. So that's the update there. The hockey season has started. NHL season is back. And one thing I always hated was working in hockey. I've worked in 2 professional sports leagues on the business side. One of them was in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts, and the other was in the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes. Rest in peace. Now the Utah Hockey Club, now under completely new ownership. And I can say with resounding confidence that working in the NFL is much more cushy than working in hockey. Because in the NFL, you've got 8 to 10 home games, including preseason. It's once a week. And then if your team doesn't make the Super Bowl, you're typically in the off season from January until August. February, March, April, May, June, July, August. That's 7 months of an off season. In hockey, you have 41 home games, and on the business side, you have to be attending every single one. So just off of that, you might have a busy week where there's 3 or 4 home games that you have to work Saturday or weekday. And then on top of that, you think about the NHL season in some cases concluding, let's say your team goes to the Stanley Cup, concluding in June and restarting a new season in October. July, August, September, October. So you have, let's say you're working in hockey versus working in football, professional. You've got 4 times the games that you have to work and half of the off season. It was brutal working in hockey. And it was it was kind of insult to injury that I worked for a half-ass organization like the Arizona Coyotes. Learned how to sell. Look, here's proof. You can't. Maybe you can see it. Learned how to sell because it was a terrible product. But golly, hockey's brutal, dude. Every time I realize the hockey season's starting back up, I'm thinking, didn't the season just freaking end? It's a gritty sport. And I can't imagine being a player in an organization that's maybe not winning, right? And you got a literally like barely 3-month off season. It's early October, so you don't even get the month of October. Really, it's 2-month off season if you go to the Stanley Cup in June. So, I just thought that was interesting, seeing that the hockey season is back going again. Great for fans. You don't have to wait for shit. One season's over, and the other one's literally right around the corner. It's great for fans. Damn, we're already at 30 minutes. That's great. We're humming today. So, another thing I wanted to get into was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon. They made him come out and apologize yesterday for something that wasn't even worth an apology. And then it broke today that he was fined $100,000 for tapping a guy on his shoulder pad, coaching him a little hard. Where has our sport gone? Where is my football gone? This is woke bullshit by the NFL. This is liberal bullshit by the NFL. This is the action. I said this yesterday. I ranted about this yesterday. And now I'm even a bit more pissed about it because he shouldn't have even needed to apologize. And now we're talking about $100,000 of a fine. That's an entire year's salary for most people. Excess of that for coaching somebody hard. How do you think that this affects players in the way they handle their interactions with coaches? We've empowered. Look, I'm all for players, man. I was a player, not a professional player, but I was a player nonetheless. I'm all my friends are in the NFL, some of them still. I'm all for player empowerment, but we have empowered players too much, and it's going to undermine the value of the game. It's going to undermine the product on the field. And the only reason that any of this is happening is because you have people sitting up in that NFL front office in New York in high positions of power within this league that have never touched grass before, literally and figuratively. They've never played on a field before. I'm talking about women. I'm talking about I'm not going to say any more than that. Right? You think if Jack Lambert ran this league, hopefully I think he's still alive. Hopefully he's not too CTE ridden. But let's say he was of clear mind. Somebody like Jack Lambert, if they're running this league, do you think they send the letter down to Tempe about this $100,000 fine? You think if somebody like Jack Lambert's running the league, that he's going to clear that decision? No, it's soft, woke liberals that are running this league. I experienced it working in the league. I felt bad. This was pre-COVID. This was when all the hysteria was going down. And I'm not trying to seem like I'm complaining about my time working in the NFL. I loved it very much. It was a dream. But this was 2019, certain kind of political climate that was starting to come to a head right before the PSYOP happened. And I definitely felt bad at times for being a young, white, straight, in shape male. I was denigrated for it at times. And that was okay. I don't think it's okay anymore. I do think the culture is changing in a fantastic way. But there's a certain culture. It's not just pro football. It's not just sports. It's corporate America, where there's still this little resistance. They're sitting around waiting for their next chance to plot the demise of the straight white man or whoever else that poses a threat to their delusion. And I'm going on a big-ass political rant right now just off of a $100,000 fine, but it's an indication of a bigger problem. Stay out of my fucking game. Stay out of my game. If these delusional-ass people stayed out of my game, stayed out of football, Jonathan Gannon's not getting that letter from New York this morning. It's toxic. I don't think we should tolerate it. That's just my opinion. I know we got a small channel. We're not going to move mountains saying that, talking about that, but that was on my heart. That pissed me off. Because I've been coached hard like that. And a lot of those instances changed my life for the better. You know, I'm not saying that I got coached hard, so you got to go through the same trauma. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that hard coaching like that actually proved in my life to be some of the most pivotal moments for the better that I can think of. So that's my rant about that. Injuries are at an all-time high in the league coming up on week 6. I think these international games are to blame. They're killing players, man. I think the Vikings have spent like 2 weeks in London. It throws their schedule off. They got to be away from their families. They probably got to be cooped up in a hotel the whole time because you can't go out on the streets in the frickin' United Kingdom. Again, we're getting political. But I've got buddies, I've got good friends that moved out here. They saw Sugar Sean on YouTube, and they pack up their shit, and they move out here to come train at the gym. I've got buddies from the UK, and they tell me about the dysfunction out there. So if you're a player, and we're trying to spread awareness of the game, you know, and you're telling me that I've got to go be somewhere that I'm not familiar with for 2 weeks. I've got to catch up to the time change. I've got to sleep in a bed that's not mine. Let's say I have a family. I got to be away from my family. I'm FaceTiming my wife and my kids every night. Oh, yeah, just another night at the hotel because they won't let me out on the streets or else I'll get stabbed. I love Ireland, but, you know, unless you got Conor McGregor as president over there, you're going to have Steelers backup quarterback Skylar Thompson getting jumped down the streets over there, which happened a couple weeks ago, the week of the Vikings-Steelers game. I think it was Steelers-Vikings, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. So this is definitely contributing to player injuries, okay? The Thursday night games, well, we ranted about this last week. When you give a team, how many days is it? Monday, Tuesday, and then you travel Wednesday. So basically 2 normal days that week. And then you got to turn around and play again. And then you think about the fact that you got 280-pound guys these days running 4.40s. People, guys, tissues in their body, they can't handle it anymore. So we got Lamar. He's likely going to hold out through the bye week. You got Bucky Irving. He's hurt. Mike Evans, he'll probably need another game or 2. Burrow. I saw a meme that was kind of funny. It was like, you know, it had Mahomes, it had Burrow, it had Jackson. They're like, and they're all saying like, how the hell are we out of the playoffs right now? And then it's like Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones. I can't remember the other guys, but all the other guys that are leading good teams right now. You know, it'd be like, boop, 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 boop. Oh no, they're just happy to be here. I was watching some analysis about the Vandy Bama game. The score didn't really do Vandy justice and how well they played. We're talking about two pivotal plays in the Vandy-Bama game that really defined all of it, and both of them were turnovers inside the 10-yard line. A Bama player made a great play stripping the ball out, and they get that fumble back, and then Pavia just threw a terrible interception. Vandy's actually pretty good. And I think they're eyeing this LSU game here in a couple weeks. LSU is going to head to Nashville. Again, I said this about Vandy Bama. I'm going to say it again about Vandy LSU. Who in the hell would have ever thought that we'd be talking about a Vandy LSU game as a prime college football matchup? Wouldn't have been me. And I think in a past life, you would have seen Vandy's building be like 70%, 80% purple and gold. Not anymore. This Vandy team, I think they could get 9 or 10 wins, squeak into the playoff. Texas Tech changed their logo. It looks a lot like Temple, I think. I don't really like the logo change. I don't like when you're trying to do too much. You know, I think Ole Miss should bring this freaking logo back. This is TikTok shop, by the way, baby. You know what I mean? But one guy that I noticed in Game 1 against Florida State for Bama, a receiver for Bama, was Jeremy Bernard, dude. And it's not Jeremy. You don't spell it Jeremy. You spell it Jeremy, Germie, Bernard. Grossly overlooked. In fact, when I was watching the Bama-Florida State game, I was like, who in the hell is this guy? He's balling. He's leading. Everybody else on Bama was playing like shit that game, but he was balling. And he actually, when I looked further into it, led Alabama in catches last year. So I think this is a prime example of people being in the media that didn't play the game. How can you justify overlooking this type of player? He's balling for Alabama. He's balling. And don't even get me started on Ty Simpson. You know, he's balling. The Heisman conversation is completely different than it was preseason. Preseason, you had Nussmeier, you had Manning, you had Lagway. There's like 4 other guys that I'm not remembering right now that you had in that Heisman conversation. None of them even close. And your preseason number 1 in Texas and your preseason number 2 in Penn State are both unranked. Who's throwing balloons on my screen? What the hell is that? They're both unranked. What the hell is this shit on the? Those balloons just kind of threw me off. I don't know. I use Streamlabs for these live podcasts. What the hell was that? I got the chat blocked off. I like to look at the chat at the end of the episode and kind of hit on anything that fans, you guys, are bringing to the table to kind of wrap up the episode. But I've found that looking at the chat, looking at the viewers during the episode, actually kind of breaks up my focus, and I don't bring the best show I can bring to you guys. So maybe someone in the chat did something to make those balloons go on the screen. I got to figure that out. That shit was weird, dude. It ain't my birthday. I always think about the audio listeners of this show. They're probably like, what the fuck is he talking about? But Jeremy Bernard, he's a baller, dude. I don't know why he's not getting more props in the media. I think it's because you don't have enough people in the media that played, that understand the game, that actually sit down and watch tape. I wish I could watch some college tape. You can't watch it unless you're a coach. Or you just TiVo all the games. And even then, that's not film. That's a broadcast. Jermaine Pratt was picked up by the Colts. That was kind of a no-brainer move because Lou Anarumo and Jermaine have such a good relationship. I think they should both still be in Cincinnati. Lou was obviously scapegoated last season for some bigger problems in the organization and people that are not held accountable that I feel like we talk about every damn episode. But nonetheless, Lou Anarumo, he's got a top 3 defense in Indy right now. I don't think the Bengals' season last year was even close to his fault. Again, there's people higher up than him that didn't want to take accountability. So we'll see what kind of fit Jermaine Pratt will be in Indy. I'm sure it'll be a great fit. Him and Lou have a great relationship, and they snatched him up just 2 days after Las Vegas cut him. A.J. Brown being talked about a little bit today with some trade rumors, some trade request rumors. He's not getting the ball. His body language is freaking terrible when he's doing these media interviews. And I'm just sitting here thinking, like, nothing's been really said, but you could just tell by A.J. Brown's body language that he's pissing and moaning about not getting the ball enough. I've been very vocal about the fact that I don't think Jalen Hurts is effective moving the ball downfield. And I think you're seeing some of those problems come to light in the last couple weeks. Again, we mentioned this on Monday, but Philadelphia finally was moving the ball downfield for the first time all season against Denver, and they lose. So apparently, this is just rumors. Apparently, A.J. Brown could be on the trading block. He's pissing and moaning about not getting the ball, and you can see it in his body language when he deals with the media. And my question is, let's say these rumors are true. Let's say we can confirm these negative sentiments as fact. Wouldn't you just be happy playing a team sport to be 4-1? To be tied for the best record in the National Football League? I wouldn't give a shit if I got the ball all season if my team ended up winning the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? We're not even done talking about our shit and my thing goes off like this. That's crazy. Again, people that listen to this show will be like, what is he talking about? So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Talking about A.J. Brown. I'm looking at the chat now. Steve H says, man, I wish they would have went with Jameis. I don't disagree. The Bengals didn't even make any calls to New York. You always wonder like how these exchanges went down behind closed doors, but we'll never know. Another thing I thought that was interesting about the Bengals was Jamar Chase has more solo tackles than Micah Parsons. Jamar Chase on the season has got 5 solo tackles. Micah Parsons has got 4. And now you have to think about the complexities of D-line, being in the trenches, being asked to pick up the playbook as fast as Micah Parsons has been. I talked to some Packers fans recently, and they feel like Parsons really hasn't made that meaningful of a contribution yet. I'm sure down the stretch it'll be a different story. But right now, Jamar Chase, he's got more solo tackles than Micah Parsons. Low Decibels, thanks for the follow on Twitch, brother. And then the last thing, I think this is the headline on the thumbnail. I'm going to get you guys out of here because this is not the most visually pleasing deal I could put on for you guys right here behind me. That's okay. I shouldn't care about it that much. But Stanford Football, they got a huge donation from a donor named Bradford Freeman. He's a Stanford alum. He owns a private equity firm called Freeman Spogli. Hope I said that right. This guy controls over a $900 million fund. And apparently he's best friends with George Bush. And I guess this is the new age of football we're in. You got GMs in college football, specifically at Stanford, Andrew Luck. You've got an interim head coach over there in Frank Reich, who will not be their coach going forward. It's just about that relationship between Luck and Reich, who I was in the same building with in Indy in 2019 before Andrew eventually retired. They have a great relationship. And Frank Reich has been entrusted this program as the interim head coach to get this Stanford football program back moving. They have fallen behind in this new college football landscape, and they obviously, Stanford, have no shortage of wealthy donors. And so they get the, by far, biggest donation, probably in the history of college football, at $50 million. And it's going to help this program a lot, I think. This guy is best friends with George Bush. He was offered to run the CIA, really powerful individual. And Andrew Luck's going to get credit for this, but apparently this guy's been donating since the 60s. So this is the new age of college football we live in. Whoever's got the strongest donors and the deepest pockets are going to reign supreme in college football. Hopefully you get all these hood kids over there at Stanford, all the hood kids from California playing ball. And it's a interesting discussion in terms of when you get paid, when you get rich, you're no longer hungry. You're fed. How could you be hungry? So it's going to be really interesting. We'll continue to talk about this on the show, how college football will continue to change, how kids will navigate being so rich, so young, and keep their stinger, if you will. Because we've seen how money affects certain athletes. You know, look at Conor McGregor. Why would he ever come back and fight? You know what I mean? Why hasn't he fought? It's because he's rich. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys there. Hang around if you want to jump in on the Madden stream. We're going to do that here once I get this audio episode uploaded. So stick around 5-10 minutes, something like that. And I don't ask you guys for much. I just appreciate y'all being in here watching. But if I could turn this inch into a mile and ask you to subscribe to the channel, would you do it for me? Would you do it for me, brothers? We intend on doing this for a long time, if not the rest of ever. And we will be doing this for a living someday. But we need some of your guys' help in order to do that. So if I could earnestly ask everybody in here to just click that subscribe button, I know that's right there on the shorts feed, it would mean the world to us. And you'll be thanked in ways that you probably can't imagine getting in at the ground floor of this channel. We are the fastest growing football channel out there. And we'll continue to be. We'll continue to be here Monday through Friday around 6-ish Eastern for this podcast. So hit us up on Spotify. Obviously, subscribe on YouTube. You can find me on all social platforms. And let's run it up together. In the jar to the moon. Dupe to the moon. Whatever you want to call it. This has been episode, I believe, 87, 88. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll preview Thursday Night Football, and we'll get on down the road. Appreciate you guys so much. My sound pad working?